This is Josh, and I wanted to do a video tour of our mini food forest here because it's growing quite well, and I thought a lot of people in Florida might be interested in a lot of the plants in the system demonstrated here. So this food forest is occupying a very small space, but hosting a lot of diversity of plant species. There's 50 or 60 edible or useful or medicinal plants in here. And this system was planted in roughly March of 2013, and today it's October 2015. So this system is about 2.5 years old, and we've kind of planted all through that as well. And now it's beginning to mature, and we're seeing some overstory and starting to develop a more shade-tolerant understory. So we'll walk through and look at a lot of the plants being shown. And this system is designed to replicate something of a forest, and you could also call this a tropical home garden, because all through the tropics, like in Central America or Southeast Asia, this is how a lot of people may have a garden at their home. The system is designed in layers, so there's like an overstory and some understory plants, and then very shade-tolerant plants at the bottom. And this is just one system of many different types of perennial systems we have here on our farm. So we'll start just by talking about these plants. Lots of rare, unique things, and we're in Central Florida, Zone 9A, and our climate is defined by extremes. So it can get cold down to 20 degrees, and it's also can be very dry and hot, and the soil is quite poor. So if you look here, this is what the parent soil looks like. This is built, the whole food forest is built on top of this, very dry, infertile sand. And then if you look in here, you can see with the management of the soil and the shade and everything, we've been able to build very fungal rich, moisture retentive soil. It holds its form. You see all this fungal growth going on and lots of millipedes and really healthy soil, which is done through a variety of practices. So first here, this is a rare passion fruit species. We have other passion fruit on the farm. This one is what we thought was Passiflora coccinea, but turns out to be Passiflora miniata. It has a red flower. It hasn't fruited yet, but it's been flowering, so maybe needs pollinated with another species, but a very interesting red fruit that's supposed to go all year long. And this is a Piper aridum, and the Hispanic people in Florida will call this hoja santa. And the leaves are used to wrap foods and cook them, and they taste like licorice. Some people will call it root beer plant because it tastes like root beer. Now this plant we can find, you can see, to a barrel cut in half, buried in the ground, because it's known for running. And the plant's so vigorous that the runners shot out from under those holes and are popping up around. So this is one you might want to be cautious with, because it can be quite a problem very quickly. Take some management. And then here, this is a pandan leaf, Pandanus amarylifolius, and this is a leaf that is from Asia, and you put this in with when you're cooking rice, and it imparts a really nice flavor to the rice. And here, getting swallowed by some weeds at the moment, is a Peruvian apple cactus. So this is a large, cold-hardy cactus that grows all over Central Florida that makes a fruit that's about this large sometimes, and they're pink, and they're a lot like a dragon fruit, and they're crunchy kiwi seeds. And that'll be a large kind of overstory eventually. This is pindo palm, which is a very common landscaping plant with edible fruit. This area, very cold-hardy palm. Fruits like this big, kind of peach flavor, really nice fruit. This is a very nice understory crop. It's a root crop called arrowroot, and not to be confused with canna arrowroot. Maranta arundinacea is its scientific name. And it produces these edible rhizomes, and this one's not quite mature, but I pulled it up so you can see. And you peel this back, and
you can cut it into coins and boil it and eat it, and the roots taste like sweet corn. And it's very low maintenance, easy, productive crop for this area at least. And this first section here, we kind of have this Southeast Asian theme going. So I visited a market in St. Petersburg called Mustang Market, where there's all these Thai and Vietnamese and Southeast Asian people selling indigenous vegetables of theirs. And I picked up some really unique plants that I wasn't familiar with before. So one of those is this Elaeagnus. Just planted this Elaeagnus latifolia, I'm fairly sure it is, and that's a red fruit, nitrogen fixing fruit tree, shade tolerant. That could be a really great crop for this area. And this is another one. I'm not quite sure what this is, but everyone at the market's selling big bundles of these young leaves, and the best I could understand is that they make soup with it. And they were selling this as a major vegetable, and I think it might be a senna species, possibly Senna siamea, but I don't know exactly. So the eventual overstory for this area is this Saba banana, and this is a banana that's known for getting like 25 feet tall with a big thick trunk, called the sequoia of the bananas. This was just recently planted. There used to be something else here that died. Back here, well, first, this is Tithonia, Mexican sunflower, and this is one of the, this is the main crop we use for slash and mulch, where you take a machete or clippers and you cut this back repeatedly, and you use the clippings for mulch, and it's very efficient at accumulating phosphorus and potassium. So we cut this, and then we can use it to mulch the bananas, and it's just cycling nutrients around and taking sun energy and making biomass so we can use. It's also a great animal forage. And believe it or not, this has already been cut back a few times this year. It grows like rapidly. And then it makes really nice big sunflowers in the fall. So we really appreciate this plant. And in the early stages right now, two years or so in, it's occupying a lot of the volume, but eventually as some of these other plants come through and become more established, that'll become phased out. So back here, and also this is just great, the shade is so important in this hostile kind of climate to keep the ground protected and cool. This is another baby perennial vegetable from the Asian market, Acacia pinnata, which I think in Thai is called cha-om, and it's spiny, but these young tips are used as a vegetable, and they're very funky smelling. Haven't eaten it yet, but it's a popular vegetable from Thailand, is my understanding. This here, all along this back fence, separating the food forest from our orchard, is purple yam. So this is Dioscorea alata, and there's plenty of information about this plant online. But through the year it grows up and occupies a lot of vertical space, and then it'll go dormant in a few months and it'll hide underground, and we can dig this up, and there could be, well, the largest one we've harvested here was 110 pounds of a big starchy purple tuber. So this is one of our main calorie foods that does well in the shady conditions of a food forest like this, and it's so productive here. We may have 500 pounds of root hiding all through here. We can dig that up and replant chunks to keep it going. This is another vegetable acquired from the Asian market, and I'm fairly confident this is Oroxylum indicum, Indian trumpet, and in Thailand they eat the young pods and perhaps leaves, and there's also some medicinal uses. We don't know how cold hardy it is, so we'll see. Actually, all these we don't know how cold hardy they are, so they may, this is all an experiment. And this is another one. The woman said that the leaves are edible raw, and I think it's Spondius pinnata, which is a native, again, a native Thai species, but we'll see. Maybe when it makes flowers, we'll know for sure. And then here's another Asian vegetable. This is Spondius dulcis, dwarf ambarella, and this one is very cold sensitive, but it freezes to the ground, and then in the spring oftentimes it'll resprout. And it's a fruit, but the fruits tend to not ripen here. They just kind of get full size and drop off while they're green. So I'm beginning to view it more as a leaf crop, and these it has edible leaves, which is also a popular thing sold at these Asian markets. They sell them in bundles, like these young leaves, in big bundles, and then you can eat it raw or it can be cooked. And the fruit is, the fruit's also edible if it fruits in the area you are. So another long-term species here is strawberry guava, which is Cidium cattleyianum. This is a yellow form. And then here is galangal, which is a well-known Thai ginger relative. It's an Alpinia species. Now here's a really rare special plant. This is Jatropha curcus, which is normally considered to be a very toxic nut. This is a selected form brought back to the United States from Mexico by Julia Morton. And this makes really nice edible nuts that are like a pistachio. And you can just start these by cuttings really easily. It's a high yielding nut crop. They freeze to the ground, come back and fruit in the same year. And this is Lucena, which is one of the main nitrogen fixing trees for this area and for the tropics in general. And this is one you can cut over and over and use for mulch. You can cut this back and it's dropping nitrogen rich leaves. And also this one's a really nice trellis, so you can plant a vine, it'll climb up and occupy that space. And it's a great firewood and animal food and one of the most useful trees really you can have. This is papaya, which is one of the main crops of our farm. And this is what happens when a papaya is exposed to freezing temperature. So it didn't kill it, it kind of shows you how tough they are. But that cold just rots this out. So normally we would cut this to the ground and let it re-sprout in the spring. And you can harvest the green fruits and use those as a vegetable. They can be eaten in salads or fermented or a number of other things. And also the fruit, of course, is a great, very medicinal tree. And you can get a papaya to this size in 12 months. So they're very quick and rewarding. This one's maybe 2 years old. This just volunteered here, actually. Okay, so the second section here features mulberry variety called dwarf everbearing. So it's this dwarf variety. It doesn't get very big, and it's known for just fruiting a few times a year. So fruiting right now, it's October. This is very uncharacteristic for mulberry. But the fruit's just kind of okay. They're small. We have other mulberries that are much better. But it's dwarf, good for this situation, and it makes a lot of fruit and multiple times a year. So this is Canna edulis, which is a root crop from the Andes mountain range. And this doesn't really produce here in my experience, so it's mostly for collection purposes here. This is another Lucena species, Lucena esculentum. This one actually has edible tips. I don't really eat them, but it also is a nitrogen fixer. Okay, so this tree is starting to totally, this was just 2.5 years ago, this was a little cutting, so this is remarkable growth. But now the shade is really filling in, so we're switching over to more shade-tolerant crops in the understory, like turmeric. There's 10 or so ginger species all through here. There's Buzenbergia, I think it is, species right there. There's cardamom. There's zedoary, a few other things. All those ginger species are good in the understory. This is lemongrass, so this just shows you lemongrass is not a long-term shade-loving plant in a more sunny area. This would be a lot happier. We'll probably replace that with something else now that the shade is in. This is Piper sarmentosum. This is another Southeast Asian plant. The leaves are an edible vegetable, kind of a spice, kind of like a gingery, peppery flavor. You can just cook those in stir fries or whatever. Shade tolerant, ground cover, perennial. Nice, really nice crop. This was a pepper. Now that the shade is established, the pepper is no longer making it. More turmeric. In this third section, this is pit, which is a saccharum species. It's related to sugarcane, and it's supposed to produce a big edible flower stalk that's edible, but it hasn't done that here. So, and it's a few years old, so it's probably not going to work out for this area, but interesting, very rare. And then in the back we have h.e.a.r.t. So h.e.a.r.t is a very well-known perennial vegetable for this area. This is a variety someone brought from Mexico. We have 5 or so varieties here. That's a cooked green. You got to cook the leaves for 5 minutes to just make them safe. And this is what's the spice? Bay leaf, little baby bay leaf tree. And then in the back there's true sugar cane. This is cardamom. There's real sugar cane there. Again, the Mexican sunflower taking up a lot of vertical space, making biomass for us, which we want. More arrowroot, the Maranta arrowroot. This is a really nice crop for this kind of situation. And this is cherry of the Rio Grande, which is a Eugenia. I think it's Eugenia aggregata. That's a small tree, maybe 15 feet when it's totally mature. Makes little cherry-like fruits related to Suriname cherry, some may know. And of course there's bananas all behind us. The dry is starting to set in, so that's why you see this yellowing. And there's bunches of bananas setting all through here. In the shade, we got the cardamom. Doesn't really produce, but this is h.e.a.r.t. So h.e.a.r.t is again, a very well-known perennial vegetable for this area, and this is a shade-loving Asian species. A Seropus androgynous is its scientific name. There's our dog. So to harvest this one, you take this and just strip the leaves, and this can be eaten raw or cooked, right in stir fries or whatever. Tastes like sweet peas, I think, and it's really nutritious. And there's some of these in Florida that are 30 years old, so a hedge like this could just kind of feed you for a lot of your life. In here is sweet potato, which we all know the tuber, but it's in this kind of shade, it doesn't produce tubers anymore. It's now just a leaf crop. So these tips like this are a very nice cooked vegetable, or the leaves you can come along and just harvest like this. One of the best leaf crops, actually, in my opinion, is sweet potato. And again, very nutritious. This is h.e.a.r.t, which is a different species of turmeric, essentially. In here we have elderberry, which is a native plant, edible fruit, and also very medicinal. The flowers are made into different medicine. Nice to have natives incorporated. This is a really good for a plant for beneficial insect interactions. Okay, so in here, this is a baby tree to fill in where something died. This is Grewia asiatica, and that's people call that falsa berry, just a little fruit. Neem tree. So neem is well known for being very medicinal, all sorts of applications. People use it as a toothbrush, or all sorts of things. You can research neem. And then more h.e.a.r.t, different variety of h.e.a.r.t. Now this is a very special plant. This came from Mexico, and it's a variety of mulberry that has edible leaves, which I've put a lot of time into lately. So at about this size, when the leaf is still translucent a little bit, you would harvest these, take them in and boil them or steam them for 10 minutes, and you have a really nice high protein cooked vegetable. And you can plant these at 2-foot spacing in a hedge and just have production constantly by a system called coppicing or pollarding, where you cut them back to a manageable height and new growth comes off. I think this could potentially be a really important crop for a lot of people around the world, if people are aware of its potential. More of this Mexican sunflower, and I always like to have this stuff around. So back in here, there's more apple cactus. Those will be long-term fruits. Also a good fence species. Here's another ginger relative. This is a alpinia. It's a type of lesser galingale is this one. Pomegranate, it's a variety called Big Red. Eventually, I need to cut this back, but this will kind of create part of the tunnel effect for this garden. This is what a male papaya looks like. So if your papaya looks like this, it will never make fruit. The female flowers are real short. So this could come out. So this time of year it's so filled in, but when that first freeze comes, this will all be wide open again. So that's one thing about this climate, it's kind of hard. There's an African basil, a perennial basil. Not quite sure the scientific name, but this is 2 or 3 year old plant, and it's still going. There's another pindo palm back in the corner. That'll be another overstory plant in the long term. And this is a feijoa, another fruit. People call this pineapple guava. So it's in the shade now, but when we prune this back, it'll slowly start coming up through and replace this in the canopy. This is probably a little too much shade. This needs cut back. Back there is cranberry hibiscus, which is a more common leaf crop with cranberry flavored leaves. In the understory, here's another perennial vegetable, h.e.a.r.t nepalensis, or longevity spinach. You can eat these raw. They're known to lower cholesterol, nice salad green or cooked green, and they really grow well in kind of a dappled shade, young food forest situation. Easy to start a plant. You could start a cutting just from this new plant. Haitian basket vine. I think the Trichostigma is the genus on this. This is native to Haiti, and young leaves are a cooked vegetable. Maybe this size. Food harvest and cook, boil for a few minutes. Really nice, very nutritious. There's more cranberry hibiscus. One of the easiest leafy plants to grow here. You eat the leaves raw. Kids really like it. It's sour. This is a peach tree. So peach is an easy fruit to grow in this area. This is a long-term nitrogen fixing overstory tree, Tipuana tipu. So this will eventually cast some shade and can be used to grow vines on, and it's a nice cold hardy, somewhat cold hardy nitrogen fixing tree. We have Opuntia cactus. This is you harvest the young pads and eat those like a vegetable, scrape off the little spines. Unfortunately, this is, there's a pest now, a cactus moth that bores in and the whole plant will just fall over, so this one's hanging in there. Hopefully it survives. And then we have African moringa. So this is a different species of moringa that people may be familiar with. This is Moringa stenopatella, and it has the same uses. The leaves are edible raw, and they're a little larger, same kind of spicy flavor. Nice perennial vegetable. And that's most everything here. There may be a few species I missed, but hopefully this video is encouraging that you can do something quickly, because this was all done with basically with free wood chips and a little bit of compost and time and primarily free propagation material. So we did all this on a very little space with very little money. And a little corner of your backyard could look a lot like this in a matter of 2 years or so. So hopefully this will inspire you to plant some things, and yeah, thanks for watching.